Dante Williams, you watching
Dante's
Boxing Nation.
Dante's Boxing Nation.
Dante's Boxing Nation.
Dante's Boxing Nation.
Dante's Boxing Nation.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So more good news for the PBC series and Al Heyman. Deontay Wilder versus Joanne Duhaupas turned out to be a huge success when it comes to TV ratings. According to reports, Wilder versus Duhaupas averaged 2.2 million views, but it peaked at 3 million views, which is pretty damn big considering the fact that nobody knew who Duhaupas was. Okay? The fact that 3 million people tuned in to watch this fight says a lot. But if you don't understand, let me create the distinction. Let me give you guys just a little bit of contrast. Gennady Golovkin, one of the biggest stars in the sport of boxing today. The best numbers Gennady Golovkin has ever did, and it was reported as strong numbers, was when Golovkin fought against Willie Monroe, and he peaked at 1.4 million views. Okay? And once again, these numbers were reported as very impressive, strong numbers, right? So if you call those numbers impressive, if you call those strong numbers, then what do you call Deontay Wilder's numbers? 3 million views. That is double, more than double, the numbers that Gennady Golovkin did. All right? Now, some of you fans will say, hey, Dante, well, you have to understand, Deontay Wilder's fight was on free TV. And that's my exact point. That would be my exact point. That when these fights are on free TV, we have an additional 1.5 million people tuning in to watch. Right? Casual fans that probably don't even watch boxing, they tuned in and they watched the heavyweight champion fight on primetime NBC. Now, I use the word primetime because you guys have to understand. Right now, Al Heyman and PBC, the PBC series, they have fights on almost every channel, right? But the only channels that are expected to really do big numbers are the channels or the shows that are on primetime networks like NBC, okay? NBC is always going to produce the biggest numbers because it's prime time. Channels like Bounce TV and NBCSN and even ESPN. ESPN will do better than Bounce and Spike, but NBC is pretty much like the HBO of free TV, if that makes any sense. So with that all been said, yeah, this was a huge success. Deontay Wilder peaks at 3 million views against a complete unknown, Joanne Duhaupas. If Deontay Wilder can pull those type of numbers, if the PBC series could pull those type of numbers, with Deontay fighting that type of opponent, imagine if Wilder was fighting against Alexander Povetkin, against Vladimir Klitschko, against Tyson Fury on NBC, free TV. Can you imagine the numbers, the TV ratings? Now let me remind you guys, when Keith Thurman fought against Robert the Ghost Guerrero, when he fought him on free TV, that fight peaked at 4 million views. Okay? So PBC, they got something good going right now. And the sky's the limit. As bigger fights get put together, this PBC series is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. If you guys haven't noticed yet, we're seeing fights every week damn near. Sometimes 2 or 3 fights a week or fight cards a week, thanks to the PBC series. Once again, the PBC is starting to become the NFL, the NBA of boxing. something that is more professional and is bringing in more fans. Like I said, 1.5 or 1 million more fans tuned in to watch this fight than they would have tuned in to watch on HBO or Showtime. Okay? You know, a lot of the success that we've seen in the UFC is largely based on quantity as opposed to quality. Let me explain what I mean. You see, if you put UFC next to boxing and you compare, fight card versus fight card, and you look at the numbers, boxing destroys UFC. But what UFC does to make up for the fact that more people will tune in to the big fights when it comes to boxing is UFC, they'll put on a pay-per-view every single month, regardless if it's a big name or not, or two big names going against each other. It's the quantity of it, right? It is an accumulative success when it comes to the UFC. See, because once again, if you compare the numbers, right? The biggest pay-per-view fight ever in the history of UFC, you know what fight it was? It was the return of Anderson Silva when he had his rematch against Chris Weidman or Weidman, whatever his name is. But do you guys know what the pay-per-views were? You know what the pay-per-view buys were? A little over 1 million. The biggest UFC fight of all time financially, and it was a little over 1 million pay-per-view buys. So now, let me ask you the question when it comes to boxing. What is the biggest grossing fight, pay-per-view fight in boxing? We already know it. It's Mayweather versus Pacquiao, right? What type of pay-per-view numbers did they do? I believe they did somewhere around 3.5 million pay-per-views. So boxing's biggest fight more than doubled the UFC's biggest fight. The way UFC deals with this is with quantity. See, boxing, when it comes to pay-per-view fights, we only see a real big pay-per-view fight every once in a while. With UFC, once again, they put one on every single month. This is the reason why they are so successful. It is more based on quantity. What the PBC series and Al Heyman, what they're giving boxing fans is a perfect blend of quality and quantity. You see, I was talking earlier in this video where I was talking about so many fights being aired that, if you don't have DVR, you're going to forget to watch some of these fights, right? There's fights everywhere. You got now Al Heyman, he has Tuesday night fights, Sunday night fights, Saturday night fights, right? And they're playing on all these different networks, just like the NBA and the NFL, right? You can watch NFL on all different type of channels. And that's what makes the league so successful. It's the fact that you are reaching out to the masses of fans, not just fans with paid subscriptions for HBO or Showtime. It's persistence, it's quality, and it's quantity. So for the people hating on Al Heyman because he's on a coincidental list, all I can tell you is numbers don't lie. If Al Heyman, if the PB series is garbage and junk, then the numbers should reflect the hatred that you were spewing out. And the numbers don't reflect that. The numbers reflect success and growth, right? Progression. And we're going to see more and more growth when it comes to PBC. No matter how much people hate it, you're just going to have to deal with it. For the real boxing fans that don't base boxing off of personal hatred and emotion, things are just going to get better and better when it comes to the PBC series and when it comes to boxing in general, right? But when it comes to those fans that have that deep-seated hate it's about to go from bad to worse for those type of people, because you're going to have to sit there and watch the success. That's all I got for now. I'm on to the next one.